I haven't heard.
Is that a cab?
You mean in?
No, everybody
Skills?
wants the air conditioned tractor.
In skills contest today.
It has
not-
a
no,
mowing
that was
deck, a
today?
spray rig, a
Oh,
forklift
I hadn't
thing,
heard.
and
Regular. He got it done
that's a
early.
spray rig, yeah.
It looked like he did a good job on it.
Now, was that here?
Oh, they did it virtual.
Oh,
You know, I don't think I know, but I have it on here somewhere, so old email.
Oh, wow.
And
that's cool.
stock, that
Beautiful.
pipe fencing, there's about 20 pieces of it.
That's so cool.
oh, single file. 13.
Crazy.
Is it bolt together or weld together? On the building, sorry.
I sure hope he wins.
Fence weld.
Oh, I hope so too.
You know the last one to win state?
Bolts.
You did?
I did as a sophomore. His grandson competed in state today. He's in our builder six class.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was their project. Had lay out a rafter with a double burst mouth.
And 2 farm trucks too.
That's cool.
That's 3 houses.
That'd be good. He worked with us at Stonewall Fire Department.
Yeah,
And it's just like working with another one of the guys.
Derek told me that at the end of it, they even put his name on there rather than putting it with
Yeah.
Chris Kaiser.
Yeah. No, he did good. He's got it.
Yeah, it is.
Well, he registered this past weekend to go to school in Fort Worth?
Waco, huh?
Oh, Waco,
Yeah.
yeah, Waco.
Yeah. I think we're gonna have a pretty nice scholarship for him.
Well, I hope so. It would,
Yeah.
he could use it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh. Like that.
The one that really gets me is
It's
one of my other
5:30.
grandsons.
We have a quorum, so I'm gonna call the meeting to order. I'm gonna start with roll call. Larry Jackson,
Here.
David Bullion,
Here.
Jessica Middle,
Here.
Eric Parker,
Here.
Mike Pennick,
Here,
Richard Laughlin.
Here.
Brad Bertrand,
Here.
Barry Kaiser,
Here.
Joe Salinas.
Here.
We have perfect attendance. I'm
Good job,
Sharon
Joe.
Joseph. I'm the chair of the Historic Review Board. I'd like to welcome all of you that are here and welcome your participation. We'll start with the statement of the chair. The Historic Review Board is an advisory board of volunteers appointed by City Council. The function of the board is to consider all applications for certificates of appropriateness for properties in the historic district and for landmarks in the city. It's in considering whether to approve or disapprove an application for certificate of appropriateness, the Historic Review Board shall be guided by the Secretary of the Interior's standards for rehabilitation and the City of Fredericksburg design guidelines. If anyone present wishes to speak in favor of or in opposition to any item on today's agenda, please sign up in the persons to be heard sheet, which was out in the foyer. It is not necessary to sign up to speak if you are an owner of or a representative for a project that's on the agenda. You will be called when the case is called. Approval by this board does not take the place of any type of permit. Permits must be obtained for all work. No work of any type shall be started without obtaining the appropriate city permits after the certificate of appropriateness has been issued by the Historic Preservation Officer. Okay. Public comments. Do we have people who signed up for public comments?
There was no one that signed up.
No one signed up for public comments. So we'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is item 5, Historic Preservation Officer's Report. Anna?
All right, so just to let you know, we're still in the process of getting these design guidelines approved. So I gave a presentation at the last city council meeting, just to kind of let them know where we are in the process. And we'll talk about this a little later in the agenda about the public meetings that we want to have, but they want them to go forward. There was no opposition to having standards and recommendations as design guidelines and standards. They do want to make sure we have at least one more public meeting, in-person public meeting. And there was support for moving this body to a nine-member board, like other public boards that we have and commissions. And that's part of
we
the
would have
ordinance.
any alternatives.
Right, getting rid of the
Alternates,
alternates.
yeah.
Yeah, so we'd have 9 voting members at all times. And then some of the feedback was also more making sure that we are allowing enough changes on low-rated properties. So we can get into some of that in further discussion at the end of the meeting, but just to say that City Council's on board and we are moving forward with the adoption process. Other things I want to let you know about, we do have a historic preservation grant available again this year. With the funding last year, we weren't so sure, but the City Council set aside $15,000. So that application is up on our website. It's available. There's copies out front. So if there's a particular house that you think is in need of some rehab, and maybe it's a financial thing, there is a small grant available to help offset some of those expenses. We are, as part of the design guidelines, we've talked a lot about short-term rentals. The city will be opening up the short-term rental ordinance and going through some public meetings, pretty much in conjunction with the historic review board or the design guidelines. So those will be separate public meetings, but we know those two issues are overlapping in the historic district. So you'll also be invited to attend those meetings and have your input there. In May is National Historic Preservation Month. We don't have any set events right now. Of course, May is also the kickoff to the 175th, which for now has kind of been toned down from the initial plan. But May 8th is Founders Day, so the official kickoff to the 175th. Richard, you're on that committee board?
Jessica is.
And Jessica?
I'm a corporate sponsor, a major corporate sponsor.
And May is,
But we're not on the,
but what's the
None of
name
you
of it?
are
May
on
has a
the
theme?
Craftsmanship.
Craftsmanship. And in May, we will be having our last meeting here. We're expecting that May will be our last meeting here. We're expecting to move back to the Law Enforcement Center in June. So obviously we'll let you know, but our time on the stage may run its course.
thank you, Anna. Okay, item 6 on the agenda, approval of the minutes of the March 9th meeting. In your packet, does anybody have any changes or corrections to the minutes from the last meeting? If there are no changes or corrections, we'll approve the minutes as printed. Moving on to item 7, certificate of appropriateness applications, starting with the consent agenda. We have 3 applications that are in the consent agenda. The consent agenda items are items that are deemed by the Historic Preservation Officer to be routine in nature and will be approved with one motion of the board adopting the staff's findings and recommendations as part of the approval. The item, the consent agenda, will not be discussed. Any member of the board or the public who wishes to discuss an item on the consent agenda may request that it be removed and placed on the individual consideration agenda. We have application 2129-228 West Main Street. We have application 2134-506 East Creek Street, application 2133-109 South Edison. Does anyone on the board or in the public wish to remove any of these items from the consent agenda? Seeing none, I will request a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Mike. A second?
I'll second it.
Jessica, thank you. There'll be no discussion. We'll go with one vote. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, if you are here as an applicant for those 3 applications, your application has been approved. You're welcome to stay and listen, or you're welcome to go, but your application is approved. Moving on to individual consideration items, application 2127-116 East Austin, Dennis Kusenberger, replacement of original wood windows. Anna's going to make her presentation, and then you're welcome to join us and tell us your side of the story, Dennis.
Okay.
Great to see you.
All right, so 116 East Austin, the applicant is requesting to replace original wood windows with replacement vinyl windows, the Window World Series 4000. I've cited the design guidelines that say that windows are an important element to a building for many reasons, including aesthetics and functional purposes. As such, it's vital to preserve, repair, and maintain windows as they were initially intended. And those design guidelines recommend choosing materials that complement the old, repairing windows and features instead of replacing them. And it does not recommend replacing old windows and features with new material that's not physically or chemically compatible with the old, or that changes or alters the visual appearance of the building, or removing original windows or features that are repairable, or when limited replacement is sufficient. And I've also cited the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation for deteriorated historic features that should be repaired rather than replaced. So staff's recommendation, the Beckman House at 116 East Austin has been taken care of, and the windows in question are not in need of repair or replacement. Windows are a character defining feature. Replacement has been approved by the Historic Review Board when windows are beyond repair with in-kind materials and sometimes a clad product over a wood window that matches the profile and size of the original. There are numerous ways to improve the energy efficiency of wood windows, such as adding weather stripping or interior film on west-facing windows. A replacement of original features diminishes the integrity of structures, eventually reducing the rating. Of note, there is a decorative leaded glass feature at the top of the front window that should not be modified. The applicant has provided multiple quotes from different brands of both vinyl replacement wood and wood clad replacements. If the windows were damaged beyond repair, staff would recommend a wood or wood clad replacement. Staff does not recommend removal of the original windows, and this recommendation is in keeping with the Secretary of Interior Standards number 6 and the Fredericksburg Design Guidelines for windows.
Thank you, Anna. Dennis, would you like to join us? Come on to the stage.
Okay, so my dog and pony show is that,
And we have pictures and everything
Yeah.
for you, so.
so they're single pane windows, they rattle, they're noisy. As I've gotten older, maybe my hearing has left some, but it's harder and harder to have a conversation on the phone. They're obviously not energy efficient. And I don't see what harm it will do to have vinyl windows in there. The cost is prohibitive on wood windows, and I have changed from Window World. I have a gentleman here with Pella, who I think has a better quality window. The only thing that you're going to see from the street, 90% of, is going to be the wood screen. I have no intention of removing the wooden screen. I don't believe that anybody driving down the street is going to go, oh my God, they put a vinyl window in there. You can't see it. I don't understand why it's that big a deal. It certainly would be a lot more functional for us. If I was to take the wood screens off and put aluminum screens on, okay, yeah, now you have something to come about. The way it is, what we're proposing, I don't see that it's going to hurt anything. It will enhance the value of the property and will certainly not degrade the appearance from the street.
Okay, questions for Dennis? Anybody?
I do have a question. I noticed underneath the big hotel, they're now putting a basement. And this is kind of, sounds off the wall, but we weren't privy to that in the pictures that we got of that hotel being put in. So I guess what I'm thinking is if the screen is the first thing that you see from the street, is the window really in our authorization because it's not seen? The screen is what you see, not the window. And our
It's in
guidelines are visual from the street.
the guidelines are very specific to windows. Windows are definitely in your purview.
Well, it's just a question because
It's a good question. And
what we see is the screen, not the window, just like we don't see the curtain or, and I get that it's part of the building, but what we see is the first thing we see is the screen.
I think the problem here in this one is there would be so much material removed to replace the windows that it would damage just the overall appearance and integrity of the structure. As far as I'm concerned, I'm ready to make a motion.
I don't see how that's going to replace the window. I mean, these guys do this for a living, day in and day out.
I guess, my comment is that we've got clear guidelines in the Secretary of Interior Standards about replacing with like-kind materials. And so that's in the guidelines. So unfortunately, that's what
This is a high-rated structure, very visible. I'm very hesitant to keep going forward with this one.
there are some products out there that some fairly new products where you can convert a single pane window to a storm window with an insert on the inside. And it's pretty cost effective to do that, much cheaper than some of the bids that I saw in your packet. So it's called magnetic storm windows. They're very popular for historic structures, and they serve the purpose to improve the energy efficiency and also the noise. It's a huge difference on noise reduction without having to replace original materials. That's just an option.
Okay, any other comments? If not, Brad said he was going to make a motion, but he can't because he's an alternate. We're trying to get that fixed, but is there a member willing to make a motion on this application?
So I'm an alternate too, right?
That's correct. Sorry. It's Brad, Barry, and Joe until we get city council.
I'll make a motion to deny the application.
Okay. Thank you, Eric. Is there a second? Mike seconds it. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
All right,
I
thank
can
you.
do on the inside whatever I want to, and I don't have to ask you, right?
Yes, you could add the film or the interior screen. Yes, you just can't take the window out. Curtains, shades.
Application 2128, 209 South Acorn, Stan Klein. Construction of a new house on an empty lot. Anna?
An R1 zone lot, it is an empty lot. You recently approved the demolition of a low-rated structure, and the applicant is requesting approval to construct a new residence measuring 18 feet and 8 inches tall at its highest ridge with a 2-bay garage facing Acorn side, totaling 2,900 square feet with hardy siding and Galvalume metal roof. A new one-story wood framed house for a residence on a vacant lot, and this design is considered low-key and blends with neighbors with a 1-story hipped roof, similar to other homes on Acorn Street. The exterior hardy siding, trim, and stone foundation, and porch and steps. Standing seam metal hook roof. Exterior paint colors to be white, and trim window trims and shutters to be accent color to be determined. So we look at Secretary of the Interior Standards number 9 and 10 for new construction in the historic district, and the Fredericksburg design guidelines for new construction, saying that it should be of the same scale, size, and massing as its surroundings, using materials, colors, and finishes compatible with surrounding historic structures, and maintaining the same roof lines, setbacks, and street and porch orientations as neighbors, and to minimize the visual impact of parking. So this lot is currently empty. The height, roof shape, and materials are appropriate for the district. A connected driveway on South Acorn and West Creek still exists. And this proposal along West Creek is to relocate the drive entrance to allow parking in the front yard. Staff recommends approval of the new construction with the stipulation that the drive on West Creek be omitted or moved back to the east side of the lot to allow parking in the rear, not the front yard. And this recommendation is in keeping with Secretary of the Interior Standards 9 and 10, along with the Fredericksburg design guidelines for new construction and parking. And I believe our applicant's here.
What?
Can you stand right there?
That's good.
The owners wish to live there, so it's a residence. It's not an STR. Okay,
Good to know.
it's not. That's why it has a garage and not a carport. It's not parking on the street. They want to park in their garage. The new projected ordinance says you're supposed to move 15 feet back. We tried to do that. We lose the backyard. So we went as far back as you can see, 11.6. Parking in front is a corner lot. There's a 60 foot triangular rule at the corner. Creek Street is very busy. The owners wish to be able to park on the property. But I think the design, is very compatible. There's a house next door. There's a building down, 2 houses down the street on Acorn that have the same roof lines, very low profile. So it's not like it's trying to shout. We're trying to blend with the neighborhood. Let me see. You can see the house right next door on the right and on the left. The house you see below is across the street with an addition. It's a little different. Are there any other pictures? I think I showed more. But prescriptively, you're applying objective issues here, and they're not objective. They're subjective, the way you're putting it. And so it's not really, ordinance says you can have curbs at the corner of a corner lot. In fact, it currently has a curb on each side. I went through the neighborhood and there are corner lots that have curbs.
It wasn't the curb, it was the parking in
Curb
front.
cut, excuse me.
Yeah, you have an existing curb cut that I
That's
recommend
right.
keeping where it is.
That's right.
Yeah.
So it's really just a situation that we're dealing with, the historic review board dealing with buildings, okay? You're trying to build something that fits into the neighborhood. I have STRs across the street and there are 9 vehicles in the street. It's very difficult when you're trying to live in a neighborhood. So this is an example of what happens if you're going to make people park on the street that they live there. And so I say it's not an objective issue. It's subjective. It's not an ordinance. Those are my comments.
Okay,
Primarily parking on the side. Do you have any
Other
questions
for
about the
Stan?
building?
So what is the intent of the parking along West Creek? I mean, is it, if it's being used as a residence, is a 2-car garage not adequate?
Well, it's
I
a
mean-
3-bedroom house and they have children. They have 2 grown children with grandchildren that will come visit them.
So it's
They're
guest,
concerned about
guest
the-
parking.
Guest parking?
Do what?
It's guest parking.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
My concern is, what are you going to tell us next to do on the lawn?
Say again.
What are the other things about the yard that's bad? Can we do a rock yard? I mean, any questions or comments?
I do appreciate the scale that you used. It seems to be fitting with neighborhood. Not a whole lot. Hardy lap siding
Correct.
for the exterior. Am I to assume that the gray color is what is presented?
It's supposed to be white, just didn't come outside. If you look at the color, it's white. It's kind of a false white.
Okay.
There's other color marker. So it's supposed to look like that?
Oh, the model looks gray, yeah.
Yeah.
Nick, the reason why it's gray?
It's a texture image, so it doesn't come out pure white.
Yeah, I know. I've been there.
I think you did a good job, Dan.
Yeah,
I'll make
this-
a motion to approve this submitted.
Okay.
I'll second.
You have a motion and
Said as submitted.
I'm sorry.
I said as submitted with the parking.
I'm sorry.
we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Application passes. Thank you,
Thank you,
Stan.
board.
Discussion item, public meeting of design guideline standards. Did you already?
Well, I want to talk about that in depth. I want to get some
Okay.
feedback from you guys and,
Okay,
because as you know, the we have now is our document, and the consultants are out of the picture at this point, so it's up to us to adopt it and get it right. So you guys have submitted some changes. I've had several other people. We had the steering committee meeting, and that was productive. Some changes that came from that. So at this point, just need to get another good public meeting. And Jason has suggested we do kind of an open house style instead of a workshop style. And staff and some of you to be there to answer questions and kind of talk about the document and why it's needed and why it's important and how we'll use it. So we had looked at some dates. Now we're looking at, it's gonna have to be the last week of April or into May, just so we have enough time to notice homeowners about it. So if you have thoughts on the public meeting, how that should look, when you're available to help facilitate such public meeting. Evenings or afternoons or combination.
Combination of both.
Yeah, we can do shifts. If it's an open house, Jason was suggesting that, we're kind of there for multiple hours and people kind of come and go.
What day?
I think, Jason, what did you recommend? Monday afternoon, Thursday afternoon, and then do an evening Zoom presentation?
Thursday morning.
Oh, Thursday morning.
DRC, Thursday afternoon.
I'm sorry, you're right, Thursday morning.
Yeah, so just a little thought process, a little bit of background on my thought process was we want to make sure that we're giving everybody an opportunity to come and review these and chat with us. I felt if we had kind of one big meeting where we did a presentation, if those times didn't work for citizens, then we're missing out. So that's why I kind of recommend open house. We sit several hours so that folks can either come in the morning before they drop their kids off or after they drop their kids off at school into the afternoon, kind of just be flexible with them. And so that's why we're kind of going that route. If y'all have some concerns about that, we'll be glad to change it up, but that's just kind of our thought process. We want to just be able to answer anybody's questions at any time, whether it's one at a time or 10 at a time. And then obviously we will have an option for a Zoom open house where we'll just stay online and as folks get on and come out of work, they can Zoom in if they're not comfortable coming into a public hearing. So that was kind of the thought process behind those.
So you're thinking of us being there in staggered shifts? Is that what I'm understanding? And you're asking for how we could participate?
Yeah, at least if possible, a couple of y'all. I think the citizens will probably want to hear. It's one thing to hear from staff. I think if they can question the board or ask, and you guys are very familiar in the community. People know you. People want your expertise. And so we wouldn't say all of y'all need to be there all day long. And if y'all can't make it, you can't make it. But we just ask that if we could get a couple of volunteers to assist with that, that'd be extremely helpful.
Okay, and you're suggesting what dates?
Well, we're looking at Monday afternoon.
The last week in April, right? Monday the 26th? No, there's a week between. 2 weeks.
I'm gone that day.
Is Monday a good day?
Well, my thoughts are we'd probably do two. We'd probably do a Monday morning or Monday afternoon and Monday all day, and then Thursday morning again. We want to try and catch as many people as possible. So if folks are working, then Monday is their only day off, or Thursday is their only day off. I mean, it'll probably be more than one day. Is the thought process.
I can do the 26th.
Can we do like maybe 2 hours at a time and as opposed to the whole day? Or
Oh, for y'all can come and go as you want.
Yeah.
Staff will be there throughout the duration, either Anna or myself, preferably both. Y'all wouldn't have to, if we did a 6-hour meeting, y'all wouldn't have to be there if it was an hour at a time.
Do you really think there's going to be, if you have a 6-hour meeting, the 6-hour availability, that there's going to be that many people that come to talk to you about it? I mean,
we could be open all 6 hours and not have anybody come in, but I want to
But
be
we
able
can
to
say
go
that we
to, I
were.
want to go to council and say, hey, we offered up as we were as flexible as possible, so that if someone does come to council and say, you know, it wasn't doable, or staff wasn't open, or the city was kind of doing it in this, you know.
So we're basically looking at Monday and Thursday, right? And
Yeah.
Richard said he's available Monday. I can do Monday. Anybody available Monday or Thursday?
What's that Thursday?
The 29th.
29th.
Do Thursday morning.
My availability is better on Thursday.
Just-
Yeah, so is mine.
I can do Monday.
In our thought process, we would have Anna's PowerPoint presentation kind of on a rolling loop. So folks, as they were walking in, they could see that. Maybe we print some little brochures or kind of highlight some of the changes that people are going to expect. Like I said, we may end up, if we say we're open at 8, we may end up with 10 people at 8 and nobody throughout the day. And, you know, we'll kind of play by ear. And if we see that there's not a lot of folks or a lot of activity, you know, if y'all have things to do, appointments, you know, feel free to come and go. But our goal is just, we want to be able to go to council and say, you know, we opened up to the public and we did our best. So.
Okay. So I have Richard and me and David on Monday, Larry, Brad, and Jessica on Thursday. But how about the rest of y'all? When?
I probably do Thursday.
I'll have to just check. I'm
Okay.
not sure.
You just let Anna know. Okay. Larry,
I don't know. Look,
say again.
I have to check. I just don't
Okay.
know.
So y'all let Anna know. We want to be, you know, we're asking city council to do this. We want to be able to say that we gave it everything we could to try and get all the public comment that we could. So, I mean, we're asking them for these new guidelines because the ones that we're working under are onerous. So we've worked hard to try and get these. So we need to support them ourselves. So
Can you send the most recent version out electronically to everyone, just so everyone has the same?
It's still, I'm not gonna.
Before the meeting,
Yes,
Yeah,
so it's still gonna be the second
just to
draft,
have
yes,
the same copy
Yes.
that everyone's playing off of.
yes, and it's all online too, for anybody that's, yeah, it's all
Or just send a
available.
Because
link
we
or
haven't-
whatever.
even though there've been suggested changes, we haven't made, I just
I know,
want to make that clear.
just to make sure
So it's
everyone
this,
has it.
it's this
Yeah.
final draft from the consultants that we're
Right.
working with.
Yes.
Thursday morning would be best.
Okay, very Thursday morning. Okay. Anything else we need to talk about? Richard?
On the guidelines, I called Anna this week on the hotel excavation. It's something that we've always been careful about, but we don't cover in the guidelines is 0 lot lines, which this may never happen again. But right now there's a 4.5 foot deep excavation right beside the Keitel drugstore up against the rock foundation on that building. I was gonna run by there and take pictures of it, but I didn't get it. But that could cause major structural damage for that building.
They own the drugstore though too, don't they?
Yeah, that's where that new corridor is going into there, but they're not, in my opinion, and probably an engineer's opinion, they're not taking precautions to protect that building. They don't have it boarded. I mean, they could swing them around with the excavator and damage the stone, but we don't have any of that covered in the guidelines for adjacencies to other properties. And I think that's a big miss on our part.
And you say it may not happen again, but the whole commercial business district is 0 lot line. So
Right.
it's
Yeah, I'm trying to think where there's other
Possible.
vacant lots.
Across the street, when they've done the underground parking garage,
Mhm.
they dug right up next to the property line to the new structures.
Yeah.
And if I were staying in those structures, I'd
Yeah.
be looking over, so.
Well, that was an issue over at the, what's the one on the corner of Main and Washington? Immigrant, thank you.
Yeah.
And that was an issue over there as well.
Yeah, and they're at least 5 feet off the property line
Yeah.
because they kept, but I know in the past when we worked on historic buildings, engineers have always had our beam 5 foot off the wall and we floated a slab up adjacent
Yeah.
to other foundations.
That would be a building inspection item, would it not?
Not on a 0 lot line, I don't think. You mean you're not?
we got to protect, I mean, you've got to keep that other building from falling down. That's a
Yeah.
It's public
building
safety.
inspector thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that the building code will address that specifically. May have to lean heavily on the engineering department when we're going through those and we have these proposals to say, hey, maybe that comment is just something from their engineer saying this is how they're going to secure it, whether it's different means, rebar, pipe.
But you're speaking into the future. You don't see anything we can do to protect this building now?
Not right now. I mean, we could enact an ordinance and say, just like you do a tree protection, you have to put 2x4s around your trees to keep vehicles from clipping it. There's some things you can do there, but ultimately that project would have been started, those approvals done prior to that ordinance taking effect.
I mean, is there
Right, we should probably consider that. I don't know that it's the historic district guideline is the place.
Right.
Because I think we could have that kind of deal other places. So if you recall, the mixed-use corridor district does allow 0 lot lines as well. So we could see areas on new construction where that's going in. So I would say that's something under the building code, chapter 5. We can do some more mitigation, or sorry, not chapter 5, that's an old city's chapter, sorry. But we do have under those building regs, we could do some protection stuff under there. We could also include trees, prohibiting people from parking over critical root zones. I mean, things like that with heavy equipment that we don't really address in our code now. I would probably not muddy the waters on the historic document with it because I think it can apply to other areas.
there may be something in the IBC existing building code that may address something like that.
Okay, I'll take a look at that.
I would recommend looking there and then the structural portion of the IBC as well. On this particular project, the one that we have active going right now, is there any mechanism to file, lack of a better word, a complaint with the city to the building?
The building in
building
question
inspector?
is their own building. I mean, it's the building they're
That's
also
correct, but it
rehabbing.
is still public safety.
It is if they drop it. I mean, I've seen a building fall as a reason.
I have too.
Well, but before we go the complaint route or ordinance, maybe a conversation from
Yeah.
the city engineer to whoever the engineering manager is on location to make them aware
Right.
of the issue and some of the liability that could happen. I would start with that. The issue that you brought up, Richard, it's a really good one, but man,
It is.
I'm
not sure it's within
a
our-
tough one on personal, on property rights from my property to my next door neighbors one. That's a real touchy subject where you're implying that the guy next door can't do something on his or her property.
But you can't destruct somebody else's property.
Well, I know that.
Yeah.
I mean, you have
Yeah.
the recourse of liability. I
Right.
mean, if you damage it.
But in this case, they own the whole thing. If they
Well,
drop
yeah,
the
that's
building,
different. Yeah, I mean, that's them.
how do you replace the building? I've seen one fall.
Yeah.
I've seen parts of one fall.
Yeah.
Maybe their lack of experience working with it next to historical structures would be worth a conversation from
So
the city engineer.
we can ask the city engineer to talk to their engineer.
Yeah, I'll reach out. We'll have to schedule a meeting
It's
with
tough, yeah.
the
No
building
different than a
inspectors and engineering department, see if there's anything in the code.
They turn
that
on windows
requires
all
that.
the way.
Yeah.
I've seen other communities or other big projects when they're going down that deep. And forgive me, I'm not an engineer, so I don't know the term, but they do like a drilling rebar process where they actually drill into the side and they'll put some rebar in there and to stabilize the foundation of adjacent properties. I can't remember the system they called that. We've used that in San Antonio before. So maybe there's some requirements in there that we could say you have to do these things to shore up those walls to make sure that dirt doesn't cave in and we lose the building.
Is that similar to soil nails?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Richard.
And just a question on the new guidelines. Richard brought up a point when we were talking about the windows that were proposed to be removed about visibility from the front street. Currently, our design guidelines do not have that language. Is that correct?
It doesn't speak to visibility from the right of way, but in the new design guidelines, we do have, that's where you're using the rating system, high,
Right.
medium, and low. So we're treating a high rated property differently than a medium rated property where it might say okay in the back, or
Right.
it might say okay if not visible from right of way.
Okay, so in tonight's instances, we followed the current guidelines.
But we wouldn't, it would have
It would
gone,
have still,
different.
for the high, it would have said the same thing.
Right.
oh, okay.
I
Gotcha.
just want to make sure that we're understanding that even though it's not visible from the street, we had purview to do that. So,
Thanks, Brad.
Welcome.
Anybody, anything else? Anna, anything else?
The flood flashing system looks like it's going away, so.
High
council-
water.
Yes, thank you.
High
The one that we looked at last month,
Flood warning
the
system.
flood warning system, the flashing and the
What are they gonna
bars,
do instead? Nothing?
maybe some lighting and different signage, so.
Okay.
So yeah, just to clarify on that, the TxDOT grant or the grant that they were looking at, they didn't get awarded the funds that they thought they were gonna get. And outside of that, there were a whole slew of additional regulations that you had to go with it that they didn't kind of let us know about. So that project's going away. We'll talk about some other safety measures at that point, and then if it's something structural wise, then Garrett will be back to give that presentation.
Okay, thank you, Jason. Anything, anybody else, anything? Motion to adjourn,
I'll make a motion.
30 seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Uh,
Opposed, same sign. Thank y'all very much. Good meeting, thank you.
everybody's 40 minutes. That's good.
Barry has to go to Walmart in Kerrville.
There you go. You're doing
Because he
good.
already bought all the tables.